This is the true story of the Colditz Cock, a glider born from desperation, ingenuity, and an unbreakable will to escape. Colditz Castle, or Oflag 4C, wasn't just another prisoner of war camp. Located in Saxony, Germany, this medieval fortress sat on a rocky outcrop 75 meters above the Mulde River, deep in the heart of Nazi Germany, 400 miles from the nearest friendly territory. Its walls were 7 feet thick, built on volcanic rock that made tunneling nearly impossible. The Germans designated Colditz as a Sonderlager, a special camp for incorrigibles. These were Allied officers who had repeatedly attempted escapes from other camps. The Nazi logic seemed sound: put all the troublemakers in one impenetrable fortress and watch them carefully. This decision backfired spectacularly. By May 1943, Oflag 4C housed primarily British Commonwealth and American officers, though earlier it had held Polish, French, Dutch, and Belgian prisoners. Among the inmates were remarkable men: David Stirling, founder of the SAS, Giles Romilly, nephew of Winston Churchill, and numerous officers who would become the architects of history's most creative prison escapes. Flight Lieutenant William Bill Goldfinch, 1916 to 2007. Born Leslie James Edward Goldfinch on July 12, 1916, in Whitstable, Kent. Bill Goldfinch was an RAF pilot with extraordinary resourcefulness. Before the war, he served as a second lieutenant in the Royal Engineers from 1935 to 1939, giving him critical engineering knowledge. On April 25, 1941, while flying short Sunderlands during the evacuation of Greece with number 228 Squadron RAF, Goldfinch's plane, overloaded with 72 evacuees, attempted landing at night near Kalamata. The aircraft struck an underwater object and sank. Goldfinch was one of only 4 survivors from the crew of 10. Badly injured, he was captured and sent to a military hospital, where he first met Jack Best. The hospital fell to German forces and both men became POWs. At Stalag Luft 3, Goldfinch, Best, and Henry Piglet Lamond dug a tunnel and escaped, stealing a rowing boat on the Oder River. They were recaptured after rowing on the wrong side of the river, a mistake that sent Goldfinch and Best to Colditz. Lamond remained at Stalag Luft 3 and later helped build tunnels for the Great Escape. Post-war, Goldfinch became the city engineer of Salisbury and continued building aircraft, including a Luton miner he flew into his late 80s. He died October 2, 2007, at age 91. Flight Lieutenant John Jack Best, 1912 to 2000. Born August 6, 1912, near Llangollen, North Wales, Jack Best moved to Kenya as a young man before joining the RAF in 1939. Shot down over Greece in 1941, when his plane ran out of fuel, he was captured and sent to Stalag Luft 3. Best was a master of concealment and improvisation. From April 5, 1943 to March 28, 1944, he became a ghost prisoner, hiding under floorboards and in closets for nearly a year to confuse German guards about who had actually escaped. After the war, Best was appointed a member of the Order of the British Empire on September 6, 1946. He returned to Kenya, then to England in 1962 to farm in Herefordshire. He died April 22, 2000. Shortly after witnessing the successful test flight of a replica Colditz Cock, finally seeing proof his design would have worked. Lieutenant Tony Rolt, MC and Bar, 1918 to 2008. Born Anthony Peter Roylance Rolt on October 16, 1918, in Borden, Hampshire, Tony Rolt was a racing driver prodigy who won the 1939 British Empire Trophy at age 20. When war began, he served as a lieutenant in the Rifle Brigade. During the Siege of Calais in May 1940, Rolt helped delay the 10th Panzer Division for 3 crucial days, enabling the Dunkirk evacuation. He was awarded the Military Cross for rescuing wounded comrades while under heavy fire with a Bren gun. Captured after Calais fell, Rolt attempted escape 7 times from various camps, including attempts dressed as a prison workman and as part of a visiting German general's entourage. For these determined efforts, he received a bar to his Military Cross. He arrived at Colditz on July 14, 1943. Though not a pilot, his engineering mind recognized the chapel roof's potential. Post-war, Rolt won the 1953 24 Hours of Le Mans with Duncan Hamilton and pioneered four-wheel drive technology. He shunned publicity, once stating, "Escaping was not a game, nor was it fun. It was a duty." He died February 6, 2008. Lorne Welch, 1916 to 1998. Patrick Pallis Lorne Elphinstone Welch was a British engineer and gliding expert who became crucial to the glider's viability. Shot down during a 1,000-bomber raid, his fourth mission as an instructor, he helped with the Great Escape at Stalag Luft 3 by building the ventilation pump for the tunnel. At Colditz, Welch reviewed Goldfinch's stress calculations and diagrams, ensuring the glider would actually fly. His expertise in gliding made the difference between fantasy and feasible engineering. He survived the war, becoming a renowned gliding pioneer and the first person to soar across the English Channel twice by glider. He died May 15, 1998. The glider idea emerged in early 1944, after the execution of 50 prisoners who participated in the Great Escape from Stalag Luft 3 in March 1944. Allied High Command had discouraged further escape attempts, but recognized that prisoners needed projects to maintain morale and prevent psychological deterioration. Lieutenant Tony Rolt, while observing the castle architecture, noticed something the Germans had overlooked. The chapel roof was completely obscured from every guard tower and sentry post. The roof sloped sharply down toward the Mulde River, 60 meters below. Rolt realized this roof could serve as a launch platform for a glider that could carry 2 men across the river to freedom. He brought the idea to the 2 most qualified men in Colditz, Flight Lieutenants Bill Goldfinch and Jack Best, both RAF pilots with escape experience. Goldfinch had engineering training from his Royal Engineers Service. Best was a master craftsman who could improvise tools from almost anything. The camp's British Escape Committee, though initially skeptical, approved the project, partly as a serious escape attempt, partly to keep younger prisoners occupied and purposeful. Goldfinch and Best needed aeronautical knowledge. By extraordinary fortune or German carelessness, they discovered in Colditz's prison library a 2-volume work, Aircraft Design, by C.H. Latimer Needham, published in 1939. This comprehensive text explained wing physics, structural engineering, and included detailed diagrams of wing sections. Latimer Needham, who lived from 1900 to 1975, was a British aircraft designer who founded Luton Aircraft and designed the Buzzard minor and major aircraft. He later invented the hovercraft skirt. His book became the glider builder's Bible. The team selected the lower attic above the chapel, a space the Germans rarely inspected. They constructed a false wall to hide their workspace, creating an electric alarm system using stolen wiring to warn of approaching guards. Approximately 40 prisoners served as stooges or lookouts, while 12 apostles directly assisted in construction. Future RAF Air Commodore Geoffrey D. Stevenson was among the builders. Every piece had to be scrounged or stolen, gradually to avoid detection. The structural frame consisted of over 30 ribs, approximately 1/3 being structural compression ribs, hand-carved from bed slats. Wing spars were constructed from floorboards carefully removed from their own quarters. Control wires were made from electrical wiring stolen from unused castle sections. For covering, they used blue and white checked cotton sleeping bags sewn together. As sealant, German ration millet was boiled into a paste, creating a dope to seal cloth pores and provide some rigidity. Technical specifications verified across multiple sources. Wingspan 9.75 meters or 32 feet, tip to tip. Length 6 meters or 19 feet 9 inches. Weight 109 to 110 kilograms or 240 pounds. Capacity 2 persons. Design high-wing monoplane with Luton Major-style rudder and square elevators. Jack Best manufactured essential tools from scrap metal. The construction took approximately 12 to 18 months, with work proceeding slowly and carefully. The team worked during times when chapel activities, including fake musical rehearsals, provided cover noise. The stress calculations and design were reviewed by glider expert Lorne Welch, ensuring structural integrity. Welch confirmed the glider could withstand flight stresses and successfully glide the required distance. Germans were accustomed to searching for tunnels beneath the castle, not aircraft above it. The false wall concealment proved effective throughout construction. Guards heard hammering, but attributed it to chapel repairs or theatrical set construction, activities the Germans permitted. The glider needed to reach approximately 30 miles per hour, or 50 kilometers per hour, for takeoff, a significant engineering challenge without an engine or runway. Goldfinch and Best designed a catapult launching system. A 60-foot or 18-meter runway would be constructed from prison tables placed on the sloping roof. A metal bathtub filled with concrete and earth, weighing approximately 1 ton, would be positioned at the peak of the roof. A pulley system would connect the bathtub to the glider through ropes. The bathtub would be dropped from the roof to the courtyard 4 stories below. The falling weight would pull the glider forward through the pulley system, accelerating it down the runway to launch speed. The glider would then separate and glide approximately 180 to 200 meters across the Mulde River to a flat field beyond. Modern tests in 2000 and 2012 confirmed this system would have worked, though it was undeniably dangerous. The launch was scheduled for spring 1945 during an air raid blackout, when guards would be distracted and searchlights would be turned off. By early 1945, Allied artillery could be heard approaching. The war's outcome was increasingly certain. The British Senior Officer and Escape Committee made a critical decision. The glider should be kept ready not for a routine escape, but as an emergency communication device. There were credible fears that SS forces might execute the prisoners in Colditz as the Allies approached. Similar atrocities had occurred at other camps. If a massacre seemed imminent, the glider would be used to fly a messenger across the lines to warn approaching American forces. This decision potentially saved lives. The glider gave prisoners a desperate final option if negotiations failed during those tense final days. Sources disagree on who would have piloted the Colditz Cock. The most likely candidates were Goldfinch and Best themselves, as the primary designers with the most intimate knowledge of the aircraft. However, with 56 or more prisoners involved in construction and guard duties, the final selection may never have been formalized. On April 15, 1945, a reconnaissance team from the U.S. 69th Infantry Division, part of General Omar Bradley's First Army, approached Colditz. German Commandant Oberstleutnant Reinhold Eggers had been negotiating a peaceful surrender with British senior officers. German forces withdrew before American arrival. On April 16, 1945, U.S. troops entered Colditz Castle without resistance and liberated approximately 200 to 300 Allied prisoners. Among the task force was Lee Carson, born Lee Carson Reeves, 1921 or 1922 to 1973, a pioneering American war correspondent for International News Service. Carson was one of the finest war reporters of her generation. She had been the first Allied correspondent to enter Paris after liberation, witnessed D-Day bombing operations, covered the Battle of the Bulge, and documented the first meeting of American and Soviet forces at the Elbe River. On April 15, 1945, Carson entered Colditz and took the only known photograph of the completed glider in the attic. This single image is the only primary evidence of the Colditz Cock's existence. The prisoners brought the glider sections down from the hidden attic and assembled it for the first time on the lower floor, showing astonished American GIs what they had built in secret. The fate of the original Colditz Cock remains unknown. The castle fell within the Soviet occupation zone, and Soviet authorities did not cooperate with attempts to retrieve it. For years, the glider was considered a myth, just another tall tale from POW camps. However, Bill Goldfinch had kept his original drawings and plans. These drawings, combined with Carson's photograph, eventually proved the glider's existence. A set of Goldfinch's plans resides in the Imperial War Museum collection. A 1/3 scale model was built from Goldfinch's drawings and successfully launched from Colditz Castle's roof in 1993, proving the basic design was sound. Channel 4 commissioned Southdown Aviation Limited at Lasham Airfield to construct a full-sized replica for their documentary Escape from Colditz in 1999. The glider was test-flown on its first attempt at RAF Odiham by pilot John Lee in 2000. Present at the flight were Bill Goldfinch, Jack Best, and approximately a dozen veterans who had worked on the original 55 or more years earlier. Many were in tears watching their creation finally fly. The glider successfully flew, reaching 700 feet altitude during a 3-minute flight, vindicating the prisoner's engineering. Jack Best died later that year, having witnessed his dream proven viable. The replica is now housed at the Gliding Heritage Center. Tony Hoskins' company, Southeast Aircraft Services, built another full-sized replica in the actual chapel attic at Colditz for another Channel 4 documentary in 2012. This radio-controlled glider was launched unmanned from the original planned roof location. The glider successfully crossed the Mulder River and landed in a meadow 180 meters below, exactly as the prisoners had calculated. The documentary aired on PBS as Escape from Nazi Alcatraz in 2014. This 2012 replica now forms part of a museum display in the chapel attic at Colditz Castle, open to the public on the 70th anniversary of liberation in April 2015. The Colditz cock never flew operationally, yet it represents something profound about human spirit under captivity. These men, imprisoned in the heart of Nazi Germany, refused to accept defeat. They turned sleeping bags into aircraft skin, floorboards into wing spars, and porridge into aviation sealant. Between 1940 and 1945, Colditz saw over 300 escape attempts. Historians debate the exact number of home runs or complete escapes to Allied territory, with figures ranging from 15 to 36, depending on criteria used. What's undisputed is that Colditz prisoners tied up significant German resources and maintained active resistance throughout their captivity. The glider project served multiple purposes. It provided hope, maintained morale, kept prisoners occupied, and demonstrated that even in history's most secure fortress, ingenuity could create possibilities. Bill Goldfinch and Tony Rolt both lived long lives, maintaining their humility about Colditz. Rolt avoided reunions, insisting escape attempts were duty, not adventure. Goldfinch continued building aircraft into his 80s, including an amphibian nicknamed Son of Colditz. Today, the Colditz cock stands as testament to human ingenuity, courage, and the unbreakable will to freedom. The German guards never knew, but now history remembers.